Hello, it's the 6th of March 2019 and this is Scotland at 7. A suspicious package was discovered in Glasgow University Mail today. Several Glasgow University buildings were evacuated and the university gardens and part of the University Avenue were cordoned off by police, following the discovery of a suspicious package in the mailroom. The bomb disposal unit rendered the package safe in a controlled explosion. The package had not been opened and no one was injured. This follows 3 suspicious packages discovered in London yesterday, 2 of which had Republic of Ireland stamps, although there has been no link established with the Glasgow package. Another package at the Royal Bank of Scotland headquarters in Glasgow in Edinburgh turned out to be a package containing promotional materials. Assistant Chief Constable Steve Johnson said Police Scotland officers are continuing inquiries after a suspicious package was received at the University of Glasgow today, Wednesday the 6th of March 2019. The package was not opened and no one was injured, and the emergency services were alerted and several buildings within the estate were evacuated as a precaution. A controlled explosion of the device was carried out this afternoon by explosive ordnance disposal. A number of police cordons in and around the University Avenue remained in place until further notice. There is no ongoing risk to the public. Police Scotland is liaising with the Metropolitan Police in relation to their investigation into packages found in London yesterday. However, it is too early to say whether there has been a link. Windrush. The Home Office has received a damning committee report regarding failures over the Windrush scandal. Joanna Cherry, SNP Justice and Home Affairs spokesman, has called on the Home Office to overhaul its inherently hostile policies and processes following the publication of a damning new report by the House of Commons Public Accounts Committee today. The report concluded that the UK government has failed to protect people's legal rights to live, work and access services in the UK. The report, Windrush Generation and the Home Office, also criticised UK government for shirking its responsibility to put right and wrong the wrongs suffered by the individuals because of mistakes. The report stated that the data systems from which it is working are not fit for purpose. The Windrush scandal erupted after Commonwealth citizens who have lived lawfully in the UK for more than 50 years were being denied access to public services and faced detention and deportation after having their stay deemed illegal by the UK government. Commenting, Joanna Cherry QC MP said, "The findings in the Public Accounts Committee report are damning indictment of the systematic failures and hostile environment that has driven Tory government policies and which have plunged people into uncertainty and hardship." Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, pledged that when he took on the role as Home Secretary, that he would seek to right the wrongs faced by the Windrush generation. However, in reality, his assurances have been found to be nothing more than hollow rhetoric. A year on from the Windrush scandal, and little has been done to secure housing for those left homeless by the actions of the Home Office. Ms Cherry called on the Home Secretary, saying he must stop shirking his responsibilities. She said that that he should work to overhaul the culture in the Home Office, the culture which led to the scandal, and dismantle the Tories' hostile environment. Nicola Sturgeon has announced more than £50 million will be spent on improving access to mental health services for expectant and new mothers. The new money will provide access to treatment for an additional 11,000 women who experience mental health problems during and after their pregnancies. Perinatal mental illness affects around 20% of women and covers a wide range of conditions. If left untreated, it can have a long-lasting effect on women and their families. New models of service delivery are to be introduced, including specialist care for acute perinatal mental health problems and improved infant mental health services. A new needs assessment report funded by the Scottish Government has been published by the National Merged Clinical Network for Perinatal Mental Health. The report outlines recommendations to improve the provision of mental health care for expectant and new mothers and their families. On a visit to the Mother and Baby Unit at St John's Hospital in Livingston, the First Minister said, "Our priority is to drive up standards of perinatal mental health for new mothers, their children right across Scotland. Mental illness during pregnancy and during the first year of birth is really common, affecting up to 1 in 5 women, which is 11,000 each and every year. This new funding will identify mental health problems quickly so that they can be treated promptly. Women with families should also expect services to treat them with dignity and respect. The impact is not just felt by women. The mental and physical health of fathers and other partners can also be affected following the birth of a new baby. We also know that between 5 and 10% of fathers may develop mental health problems in the perinatal period." Tories promised to safeguard on workers' rights after Brexit. Prime Minister Theresa May has said she will offer Parliament a greater say over the changes to workers' rights laws after Brexit, in the hope of persuading Labour MPs to vote for her EU exit plan next week. With less than 3 weeks until the UK is scheduled to leave the European Parliament, Ms May has yet to secure parliamentary approval for her deal to untangle more than 4 decades of legal and economic political integration with the EU. Her EU deal was resoundingly rejected by Parliament on January the 15th. The government plans to write a promise of improved consultation on post-Brexit workers' rights into legislation and will offer MPs, businesses and trade unions a say on whether Britain should match any future EU rights laws. After Brexit, it should be for Parliament to decide what rules are most appropriate, rather than automatically accepting EU changes, May said in a statement issued by her office. Many Labour MPs represent areas that voted for Brexit and fear their party's new official position to support a second referendum would alienate their constituents. Labour, which has said it would align the UK with EU laws on workers' rights, described the government's offer as pathetic, a pathetic bribe. Chris Stevens MP said the Tory government's last-minute pledge to allow Parliament to vote on future changes to workers' rights at an EU level did nothing to guarantee the UK government would not try to roll back current rights or deliver future improvements. Trusting the Tories on workers' rights is like putting a shark in charge of a swimming pool, he said. Pension credit changes. Pensioners who have already been hit by Conservative government cuts to pension credit may also lose other benefits, such as the cold weather payment, MSPs have been warned today. Beginning 15th of May, couples where one partner is below pensionable age and the other is collecting state pension will no longer be able to claim pension credit. This is likely to reduce such couples' incomes by £140 a week or £7,280 a year. Pension credit is known as a passporting benefit, in that it leads to other benefits. For example, cold weather payments, housing benefit, and council tax reduction. Age Scotland has told a Holyrood committee that 56% of pension credits claimants are disabled. Age Scotland also spoke of the WASPI women who have already been hit financially by changes to the state pension age, saying that the changes to pension credit are likely to have a greater impact upon women. MSP Alistair Allen said, "The impact of this Tory cut, which is conveniently sneaked in the back door on the evening of an important Brexit vote, is truly shocking. This cut is going to hit pensioners in need, and a majority of whom are disabled. And it is staggering the knock-on impact that we could see. Some lose access to the cold weather payments and other benefits. Evidence of Westminster's failure on welfare grows every day. The Tories can't keep sweeping the harmful effects of welfare cuts under the rug. The UK government must urgently reverse this attack on low-income pensioners." Cash. UK cash systems are on the verge of collapse. A new report claims that the country's cash infrastructure is in danger of collapsing and that 8 million adults in the UK could find it difficult to cope in a cashless society. The Access to Cash Review has called on companies and organisations that provide essential services to be required to ensure that customers can continue to pay with cash, particularly in the light of the use of digital payment systems and the closure of bank branches and ATMs. The review is chaired by the former head of Financial Ombudsman Service, Natalie Keeney, who said that 17% of the UK population, over 8 million adults, would struggle to cope in a cashless society. Last year, debit cards overtook notes and coins as the most popular form of payment in the UK, and the report predicted that cash could fall to just 10% of all payments within the next 15 years. The review called on the government regulators and banks to act now or risk leaving millions behind. The cost of running the UK's cash infrastructure is about £5 billion a year. But while this cost is fixed, income generated by it was declining and risked becoming unsustainable. The report said the UK was not ready to go cashless, and despite the growth of contactless and mobile payments in significant number of people, were still dependent on cash for their day-to-day transactions. Nearly a quarter of elected politicians worldwide are women, according to the Interplanetary Union's yearly analysis. The share of women in national parliaments increased by nearly 1 percentage point last year, from 23.4% in the year 2017 to 24.3% in 2018. This increase confirms the continuing rise of women in Parliament at a slightly faster rate of change compared to previous years. Countries with well-designed gender quotas elected significantly more women to Parliament than those without. The Interparliamentary Union has been tracking women's participation in Parliament for decades, allowing it to monitor progress, setbacks and trends. This year's report is based on 50 countries that held elections in 2018. The IPU data confirms that the global share of women in Parliament continues to rise, albeit slowly. When compared with the 18.3% of MPs who were women in 2008 and 11.3% in 1995. IPU President and Mexican MP Gabriela Chavez Barron said more women in Parliament mean better, stronger and more representative democracies that work for all the people. The 1% increase we saw in 2018 represents a small improvement on women's parliamentary representation. This means we still have a long way to achieving global gender parity. For that reason, we urge for greater political will in adopting well-designed quotas and electoral systems that eliminate any legal barrier that might be hindering the opportunities of women to enter Parliament. Afghanistan. At least 16 people have been killed in a suicide attack at a private construction company near Jalalabad Airport in eastern Afghanistan. The assault began with 2 explosions early on Wednesday. A spokesman for the provincial government said 16 employees of the company have been killed and 9 more injured. All 5 attackers have been killed by the security forces. In the cleanup operation which followed, security forces defused 2 suicide vests, 1 car bomb and many mines which had been planted by the attackers. No one has claimed responsibility for the attack, but both the Islamic State group and the Taliban are active in the province. The bombings come as the US and Taliban negotiations continue on ongoing peace talks in Qatar, aimed at ending the nearly 18-year conflict. There's been new research which reveals the hardships of those who beg in Edinburgh. Hard-hitting new research into begging in Edinburgh has been published by the Edinburgh Community Safety Partnership, along with the charity Shelter for Scotland. Researchers commissioned jointly by the Partnership and Housing and Homelessness Charity have evidence of at least 420 people begging on the streets of the capital over the 2 years to October 2018. It found that the lives of those begging were characterized by deep, often lifelong poverty, poor mental and physical health, addiction, and constant threat of abuse. It's the first detailed piece of research into begging in any UK city for 20 years and is described as a first step in finding ways to support people out of begging in Edinburgh. The research found that 89% of people begging in Edinburgh and were UK nationals, and 73% having a local connection of accommodation or at least their last settled address being in Edinburgh. The Edinburgh Community Safety Partnership includes representatives of public agencies such as the NHS, Lothian and the Police Scotland, as well as Essential Edinburgh, which represents the city centre businesses. The partnership has agreed that a united effort will be required to help people move on from begging. Climate change. Edinburgh City Council have agreed that, provided they have written permission from parents or guardians, school students may take part in the global climate crisis protests. The move has been inspired by 15-year-old Greta Thunberg from Sweden. Edinburgh City Council is controlled by an SNP Labour coalition and is thought to be the first local council to grant such exemption. Mary Campbell, the Scottish Green Party councillor behind the move, said climate breakdown is the defining issue of our age. The future will depend on how willing we all are to listen to children and young people whose futures are most at risk, versus some politicians or vested interests who want to delay or do nothing. So that is why I want Edinburgh to show a lead and recognise the importance that climate strikes and support young people who are taking part. Travellers' sites. Around Scotland, there are around 27 traveller sites. Most of these are run by local councils. Today, Davy Donaldson, a traveller campaigner, has said that some of the sites are subhuman. One site in Colin in Dumfries and Galloway failed 7 of the 8 standards. The Scottish housing regulator warned that local councils must make improvements or face formal intervention. In a statement, Scottish housing regulator said that travellers have fundamental rights to live in safe and secure homes in communities where their cultures and traditions are respected. It is of huge concern that many of the sites are not currently up to the required standard. Dumfries and Galloway is represented by Oliver Mundell, Conservative, and Findlay Carson, Conservative, and is in the constituency of David Mundell, Conservative, Secretary of State for Scotland, and it has the worst record for traveller site standards. The Colin estate has visible subsidence, with some buildings which are visibly slanting. The site was built on a peat bog. The council has been told that £8 million are required to bring the site to the correct standard. David Donaldson, campaigner for Gypsy and the Gypsy and Traveller community, said, "I am embarrassed when I stand here and see some of the stuff around me." Andy Ferguson, Scottish National Party, who chairs Dumfries and Galloway's Communities Committee, said that this didn't happen yesterday. Some of this stuff has been happening for a number of years, and now we're having to fix it. The council has claimed that it faces a funding gap of £16 million in the next financial year. However, Housing Minister Kevin Stewart said councils did have the funding at their disposal to deal with this issue. Dundee will be the first living wage city. Employers have joined forces to increase the overall volume of jobs which pay voluntary living wage of £9 an hour. So far, 50 employers have agreed to the scheme, which means that more than a quarter of all city workers are included. Jamie Hepburn, Minister for Business, Fair Work and Skills, said the significance of the living wage cannot be overstated. The Dundee City Council is controlled by the SNP and supported by one independent councillor. The City Council formed an alliance with DC Thompson and the local Chamber of Commerce to bring the plan into operation. The national living wage is currently set at £7.83. So the Dundee scheme provides a worker who does a 36-hour week, assuming that they are paid for the 52 weeks, with an additional £2,190, 24 pence before tax, or £16,848. Derek Mackay, the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, Economy and Fair Work, lowered the tax liability for workers who earn around £16,000 mark, around £130 in his about £130 in his budget, which passed by the Holyrood Parliament by 66 votes to 58 on February 20th, 2019. So, a lot of news tonight, and that's the end of all of that, and I hope to see you again soon. Tomorrow night, Gordon Ross will be here. Bye-bye.